If your parents properly taught you about sex, what did they say that you thought was effective? I was very young, probably about 10-ish, and I got a full-on demonstration with a blackboard and hand-drawn illustrations. Don't think it went much into the STI side, but definitely the pregnancy and functional side of things. Obviously made an impact, as I still remember it about 40 years later, and B was miles ahead of any of my peers in that respect, knowledge-wise at least. To wear condom, and make sure my partner is also using protection. My parents were always very open about sex, and I think the best advice they gave about it was to never make it taboo. Very grateful they never entered in technical details. My dad encouraged me to always have condoms. What worked was to tell me that even if you don't need one, maybe your buddy might. I became fairly well known among close friends for always having condoms, especially at parties, and dozens of dudes had safer sex because of me during the hormone-fueled teenage years. It also meant that I always had one for myself whenever the opportunity came up. A few things. Don't have sex with someone if you aren't able to perform oral on them. If you can't put your mouth there cause it doesn't look pleasant, then you definitely shouldn't put your dick there. If you aren't going to wear a condom, then assume that they will get pregnant and you'll have to raise your kid with them. This quote has saved me so many times. Be open and honest with your partner about what you want and don't want. Sex and intimacy is easier when everyone is on the same page. My F20 mom F55 told me that I could always talk to her if I needed to, that she might have an emotional reaction if it was something upsetting, but that she'd take time to calm down and that she'd be there to help me and support me no matter what. Saved my skin multiple times from pregnancy scares, and helped me to get out of an abusive relationship at 16 where I was sayonara. I didn't have any friends at that point and didn't feel comfortable talking to my teachers, so had I not been able to talk to her, I would have been alone dealing with that. I knew it felt wrong, but I didn't feel confident enough to do anything about it, and talking to her helped me realize I needed to get out and that it was possible to. Be the kind of parent who your kids can talk to about their problems, even when it's embarrassing or to do with sex. My mom was pretty accurate, but basic in SE, but I did end up with a very good teacher in school for that one required semester. The two parts I kept with me from my parents were these. Dad, always test drive the car before you write it and look into its specs and model issues. He elaborated to essentially mean have sex before marriage and really get to know someone, including living with them before marriage. Mom, always use protection and don't rely on anyone else's word. This one came with the horror story of what it's like to be in an emotional and manipulative abusive relationship and the truth about condoms not being as effective as hormonal variants. I learned about the amount of secret abortions my mother had because of baby trapping attempts. At 21, my dad told me we should have the talk. I was not a virgin. I'm taking a different approach with my son. In 7th grade, my dad, who is an obgyn, took me to work with him while he was on call. I saw a natural birth, a C-section, and a hysterectomy. We talked about stuff before and after, but that whole experience was burned into my brain. Super effective. When we were going in for the natural birth, I had to wait outside while my dad went in to talk to the laboring mom and get her permission. I heard her response from the other side of the door. Bring her in. She should know. My parents told me nothing about sex, but they taught me to be nice to people, to not be selfish, and to make sure everyone has a good time. That seems to work, not only for sex. The most effective thing was that no birth control is 100, so before I have sex with someone I should ask myself if I'm okay with being tied to them forever, since they likely will be if I have their baby. It worked. Only had sex with my husband BF at the time, cause no matter how infatuated I was with the other people I dated before him, I wasn't sure I wanted to be tied to them forever. By the time my husband and I finally decided to have sex, I knew he was the one I was going to marry barring anything crazy. The pull-out method isn't a guarantee. To quote, if you make a mistake, I will support you 100, but your ass will own that mistake. She said it to all of us kids. The best birth control is your face. I'm not sure they were calling me ugly or to stick to oral. Either way, it worked. I'm just coming here to read comments and discussions about things I missed on life. Gotta learn somehow. I was never given the sex talk. Never knew what protection was, how to use a condom, what insist or where to go for a sex blood test till I was until a very late age. So yeah, I'll be reading and scrolling. When my mom found out via dropped note in my bedroom that my boyfriend and I were having sex at 15, she sat us both down and gave us a talk somewhere along the lines of don't have anal sex. If he wants it, tell him to find a hole in the wall. I've treated too many geriatric patients with prolapsed anuses. Do what you want, but use protection and always ask whoever it's with if what you're doing is okay. Solid advice, methinks. Not me, but my father told my older brothers look at a girl's teeth, If they have bad teeth, they have bad personal hygiene. It stuck with them, and their partners have beautiful smiles. Still makes me laugh. My sex talk was 2 separate incidents. My dad took me to a Boston Pizza when my parents found someone me searching for sex.com on the family computer. My dad asked me if I knew what sex was. I gave a very rudimentary explanation, was told to not look at porn on the computer. Then the matter was dropped. My mother and I were watching Much Music, and Pretty Fly for a White Guy came on, and she told me that the women dancing in gold bikinis were not a representation of what women are. To which I replied, yes, I know, thanks, and the matter was dropped. If you fuck without protection, you can get pregnant or get AIDS. It may not happen every time, or the first time, but it only takes one time.